Welcome back to the Win with Dice podcast, the podcast featuring members of the Win with Dice team. I'm Calvin, and I'm joined here by Ramon.
Hey guys, if this is your first time listening to the Win with Dice podcast, this is a podcast all about tabletop RPGs, running them, playing them. Calvin and I like to take a casual approach to jamming, and we just kind of talk about our games that we've played and we've ran, and hopefully it shows you that you can jump on the other side of the screen too, and it's not so scary.
Yes, we take a casual approach to GMing to make it more obvious that it's not as difficult as it may seem at first, or from the outside perhaps.
Yeah, definitely.
Now this week, we wanted to do more of a dive into the Kineticist Playtest class that was recently released for Pathfinder 2e. We're essentially just going to read through the information and have a bit of a discussion on it. I did make a very low-level Kineticist up to level 4, and I can talk about that character a bit. I didn't get to actually use them in play yet, so that's probably something we'll cover in a future episode. But before we get into all of that, we have to get to the most important part of the show, the Win with Dice Weekly GM Tip of the Week.
Yes, the Win with Dice Weekly GM Tip of the Week, brought to you by Calvin today again. Thanks, Calvin. I'm a little tired today.
I mean, again, you've been pretty busy. I've just been out of it because my brain refuses to work with me. But I do have something important to say this week. Just because I had a bit of trouble with this recently, as in today. Sometimes you might need to, especially if you rely on digital systems for your characters and you're playing, it might be a decent idea to, say for character creation, it might be a decent idea to have in your back pocket to know how character creation for your games works in general. Because sometimes it's possible for those systems to stop working. Sometimes it's possible for things to be lost. Even if you just type down notes about your character and things you picked at each level, that could also be a good idea, just to have those backups or to know how to put those characters together if need be. Not that you might have to every single time, but it's just something that might be useful to have. Because me personally, I was trying to build a character and certain things weren't working, and it wasn't clear to me why the system wasn't working. But I could have built the character if I was writing it on paper or something. In the past, I've also had experiences where certain sites have had issues and they caused me to lose data that I had saved on those sites but didn't have backed up anywhere else. So I had lost a level of a character, for example, and I had to remember what I picked at that level, because this was back in first edition of Pathfinder, and skills were a bit less automated. Well, I mean, they were kind of automated, but you still had to pick what you wanted per level. And when I lost that, I certainly didn't remember what skills I picked.
Yeah. So it's always good to keep a backup copy or a hard copy or something like that. I mean, these digital systems are great, but they're also finicky, and they could just delete all your stuff, and then you're like, oh no, my precious character or my precious dungeon master notes.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'll always keep a backup, and I think that's a pretty good tip. So there you go, folks.
Yes, that was this is something I didn't tell the Crown of Dragons crew, but there was one morning where I accidentally deleted the entire quest list, and if I didn't have a backup, and I forgot I had a backup for the whole morning, so the whole morning I was having a terrible day.
You're like, oh no, all my sewer notes.
Yes. But fortunately, I had a backup. So yeah, that is the tip of the week.
There you go, folks. Yes, Win with Dice Weekly Tip of the Week. Thanks, Calvin. All right, let's jump into this Kineticist class.
So this is going to be a bit more of a visual part of a podcast. A YouTube podcast having some visuals would be interesting. Every now and then we'll probably flash to the book itself, but you can just download this. We'll put a link to it below where you can get it off the Pathfinder Playtest site, so you can give this character build a try and put it in your game. I've seen some comments that say it feels more like an RP class than a combat class. Some feel like it's better against swarms and against single enemies. But we'll get into it. We'll talk about things as we go on, and you can sort of make up your own decisions, or your own mind, rather.
Mm-hmm.
So the Kineticist, as we mentioned before, it's basically powered by elements and elemental magic. Water, earth, fire, air, those specific four, although I believe that the book that's coming out with it, Rage of Elements, Rage of Elements or Wrath of Elements. I think it's Rage of Elements. It'll also include like the element of wood and the element of metal as well.
Ooh, cool. Nice.
But you are essentially taking control of 1, 2, 3, or actually 1 to 4 rather, of those elements and processing them and using them for your abilities.
Yeah, definitely drawing off of some Avatar influences, I would think. But I think these like concepts are like pretty universal.
Yeah, they kind of are,
just a
but
magic
there's some
man.
big Avatar energy here.
Yeah, you're like a magic man, and you're just like, I'm gonna throw that rock, or like, hey, fire comes out of my hands, like.
Pretty much.
Like, yeah.
That's certainly how I approached the character that I was building. I don't know if they ended up like function. Well, sort of. I mean, there's no way of knowing until I actually play with them, so we'll see.
They ended up functional. What do you mean?
Well, I just
like,
in terms of how effective their abilities are in combat, in terms of like damage they should be doing at that level, but I won't know until I'm in a game or testing it out with other characters.
That's true.
I mean, unless I just memorize how much everything does at each level, but I'm not an expert like that.
Kevin, you don't just know everything all the time?
There's people that do though. Or at least they feel like they do.
True.
But yeah, so let's get into this because there's a lot to cover. So you'll probably notice right off that their key ability is Constitution, which is a rarity. I think there's maybe only one other thing.
Maybe barbarians, but maybe not, because I think that's strength.
It's definitely strength. But Constitution, so this is one of the things that I was trying to work with here, because Constitution doesn't really contribute to a whole lot. Like it contributes to like your certain saves and things like that, but it doesn't contribute to like a lot of your skills, right? It'll contribute to your class DC here and your attacks. Well, no, not even your attacks, because they still use your strength and your dex, sorry. Yeah, you don't get a whole lot of use out of Constitution. And I kind of wish it was more effective. I wish that you got to add your Constitution to your damage.
Okay. But yeah, it just gives you a pretty big butt, as one commenter Mitchell said. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Gives you a really big booty, so you can take a lot of beatings. Like.
Yeah, which is, I mean, that's good in general, but as a class, additionally, it doesn't get too much HP. Like 8 is, I guess that's above average, but I think it's less than a barbarian still. Off the top of my head.
Definitely. I think barbarians are 12, fighters are 10, and then you that's like it goes down to like 8. I think 8 might be like general spellcasters might be 8. I'm sure.
Yeah,
I can just look it up somewhere. But
I don't want the episode to take forever with us searching things, but
I'm not going to. But yeah, it's definitely like in the range of like a spellcaster, probably in the range of like, a punchy caster like a druid, right? They can do a little bit of both, but yeah, definitely not like frontliner, like super up in people's faces.
Yeah, exactly. And this is balanced a bit by the fact that you'll probably inherently have a high con mod because it's your key ability, so it's gonna get at least one boost whether you like it or not. But
yeah,
again, if Constitution is your main thing, I kind of feel like you would want the things that use it to feel more important.
Yeah. Well, specifically, I think it's like the flavor text too, right? It's like you open up like a gate, energy gate right, inside of your body. So it's like your Constitution must be like pretty good if you're like connecting to another plane with your body, right? Like you're just surging with power all the time. Then it's like you should be able to like deal with stuff or take a couple of wounds. Like your body needs to be like tight.
That's fair. So yeah, you start off trained in perception, that's fine. Expert in force, expert in reflex, trained in will. Again, just basic stuff. Skills feel like they're a bit on the low end because you only get 3 plus your intelligence.
Yeah.
But that's not too bad. I mean, Pathfinder 2 has some specific skills anyway. Yep.
Yeah, I think int would be a dump stat, for sure, because I don't know. It feels like if I'm gonna beat up some people and my booty's fat, like, do I need to be smart? I don't think so.
True. I mean, there might just be like a very specific list of skills that you want to use. You come trained in nature, but there might be some because like I definitely leaned into like athletics and intimidation for the character that I made because I was thinking like strong earthbender type.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I definitely am like an Unga Bunga player. Like, I never like think about like stuff that isn't just like putting people in the dirt. Like, so
fair enough.
I'm like, skills. What are those? I don't have any.
You don't need those in combat.
Yeah.
So you are trained in simple weapons and unarmed attacks.
Means your body's a weapon. Nice.
Pretty much. Additionally, trained in light armor and unarmored defense. Which, I mean, again, like cool. Like you were saying before, like you're probably not going to be up front with this class.
Yeah.
And then trained in Kineticist class DC.
I'm surprised we get. I mean, it's definitely like towing the line between like your like basic. It's like it's basically like you can do you could be like the monk with magic hands if you want.
That was like I was trying to build like 3 different characters, and one of them was pretty much that. But
monk with magic hands,
or at least a more intelligent monk. We'll probably talk about it if I finish them off, or more towards the end what I was trying to do with the class.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's get into the things you get as you level up. But first we need to set some base terms. So this whole section is pretty long for like a single class, if I'm being honest. But there is a lot of feats that come with it. But there are some specific terms that are related to this class. And
impulse.
Traits. Yeah, so
kinetic aura, overflow,
and brutal.
Like.
So impulse.
Sorry, I'll stop.
No, it's okay. We're commenting on things. But yeah, like impulse is basically a type of feat. Essentially, the way it works is it's something that uses your element. So you have to have the element gathered to use it if it's an impulse feat that has a specific element as a trait of it. Like an earth impulse element, you need to have had earth gathered, essentially, by using the gather element action.
Yeah. I think of it as like, when the earthbenders in the Avatar have to pop up the rock first before they fling it at you.
Essentially.
Pop up the rock first and then you're like, yeah.
That's you popping up a rock. That's you grabbing some mud.
Yeah.
Kinetic aura. This is basically an aura that exists around you while you have your element gathered in a 10-foot emanation, unless modified by another feat or anything like that. Some impulse feats relate to this in some ways. Like you can use it to make, say, difficult terrain around you or make your allies faster around you within that aura.
Ooh, cool.
It is kind of limited in that you can only use it in encounter mode. So like only when you're actually in an encounter. I feel like I, as a GM, would probably say, like, no, if you want to use your ability now in this more RP situation or whatever, go ahead and do that. I don't know that I necessarily like the idea of just limiting it to encounter mode.
That's true. I mean, it could just be like, because it's only, a few seconds of whatever is happening, right? So that's probably what they're doing. But I mean, like, if you could just like pop on like the earthquake mode, like just walk around constantly, just making difficult terrain for everybody, like, you know what I mean?
That's fair.
Like I'm sure there's one where it's just like everything's on fire all the time, and it's like, well, I don't think that should be appropriate.
Maybe. It also does reduce the number of actions to takes one action for you to use a if you use another impulse with a kinetic aura trait, it reduces the number of actions to take if you have that type of kinetic aura up. If I'm understanding how this works correctly, I might have misunderstood this, but that was my understanding of it.
True. It's just like you already have it all gathered. You don't need to regather it because it's all swirling around you anyway, right?
Right.
It's kind of the idea. You're just like...
Yeah, that was how I understood it. I could be mistaken. If someone wants to put a comment below about if I misread this, be sure. You can feel free to do that.
Man, seriously, this whole thing is just basically like all I see is like Avatar: The Last Airbender, man. Like, I'm like, dude, what the heck? They just like saw this show and was like, yes, give this to me now.
I mean, you're not far off, honestly.
I'm like so excited. Like, honestly, like I would just like fucking play a campaign where everybody is just like a bender, like a different bender, and it's like, oh yes, you gotta go find the avatar. it's just we're just playing Avatar. I don't actually know. I think there's an Avatar tabletop RPG out there, right?
Yes.
But yeah, maybe I'll take a look at that before I'm like, yes, this is what we're doing now. Campaign idea, maybe? You tell me, folks, if you think that's a good idea or not.
Probably. Another term is overflow, and this is a type of impulse feat. But when you use an overflow, that uses up the element you've gathered, so you have to regather it to use more impulses afterwards.
Oh shit, that's crazy, man. You're just like, ba-blow! Take my extra smash. Oh, and brutal. I like brutal that brutal says that a ranged attacks use strength instead of like dexterity and attack rolls, because you like, I'm going to punch the air really hard. It's probably not that. It's probably just like rocks and stuff. Like
yeah, kind of. I believe it was an NPC trait or a creature trait. Brutal was, but now you can use it for PCs.
I mean, I think it's cool, man. You should just have brutal always as an option. I think Macy should probably have brutal always as an option. Doesn't throw her mace.
Yeah, doesn't throwing use strength anyways, or am I mistaken?
Like, I remember any rules. Sure.
Yeah, we both have the thing where it's like we know we'll need this rule, but we know where to find it, so we'll find it when we need it. We won't remember it all the time.
See the problem is like Macy's like strength score, Macy's dex score would be like either a +3 versus like a +1 or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Or +4, right? Like that's like a slight difference on a D20. Like, I mean, it could mean something, but like if off the cuff Macy's just chucking this thing, it's gonna like, I don't know, man. It's probably gonna hit.
Well, I would say like those little 1s and 2s probably matter in Pathfinder 2e, especially because you get a crit on being 10 over. So.
Yeah, but it definitely matters in the in-between rolls, like between like 11 and like 14. But if you're up like 15, 16, like on the roll, plus your level, plus like the proficiency on the weapon, plus all this other nonsense, you're like batting like 25, possibly 30 on like the first action attack. Yo, chill. Like, you probably hit, dog. Like, I'm not out here running like 35 AC. I'm just like a dude with a stick. Like,
look, that mace is a fishing rod, and I'm fishing for crits.
Fishing for crits. I'm here bopping weasels, man. Bop.
So
all right, let's get back to this.
Yes, you get your ancestry, your background, your proficiencies, and everything, and then when we start to get into how the classes are split up more so, because you do have different elements, but the way you channel them is through your inner gate. That's your connection to an elemental plane. And we sort of went over this when we started describing the class last episode, but there's 3 different types of gate, at least in this book so far. You have your dedicated gate, which allows you to channel a single element that you choose at first level. But when you choose that, you can then choose 3 first level impulse feats, which again are the feats that use your certain elements to do things with. So because I was making a earth-based character, I chose dedicated gate earth for the first level, and then that meant I was able to pick 3 extra feats at first level, 3 extra impulse feats, but they all have to be earth ones. And I think everything has like at least 4 first level feats.
Okay, interesting, cool.
So that's a dedicated gate. A dual gate is one where you connect to 2 planes. So you choose 2 elements, and the character that I was trying to make a different character for each gate. So the one that I had for dual gate was one that was just fire and water, which I didn't test to see if it was a useful combination. I just thought it sounded cool.
You're a steam bender, all right. Icy hot, right?
Exactly.
Little spritz, a little pizzazz, a little steam bath.
That's pretty much what they do. But
so, when they burn your house down, they can also out the fire at the same time.
Yeah, oh no, I can't think of a place to use that. There's a whole thing about like switching elements that we can get to when we get to gathering element, but yeah, dual gates. You select 2 elements, and you get 2 of these first level impulse feats, but one has to be from the first and one has to be from the second.
Yeah.
And then there's Universal Gate, which is you have access to all 4 elemental planes, but you're limited to only 1 first level impulse feat. However, you can change that daily during your typical daily preparations, like how other spellcasters would do. It does have to be first level, but some of them are able to sort of scale up to different levels, similar to how spells work. But because they are feats, they scale up with your level, not like your spell level, which is like half your level.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
So are they spells? No, they're just like things, right, that you can do?
It will specifically say, I believe further down as we go on, that impulses are magical, but they aren't spells. So for the purposes of anything that would interact with casting spells, like if there's something that would stop you from casting a spell or protects against spells or something that's a save against spells or anything spell related, it still applies, but they aren't like literally spells.
Ooh, that's good.
Like it's we do not grant you the rank of master. It's they're magical, but they don't get the rank of spell.
I mean, that's good too, because that's like alchemists. Like alchemist stuff aren't spell casting, but they are magical, right?
In a way, I don't know that
yeah.
they're limited by spell effects, but that's because I don't have every rule of the game memorized.
It's true. All right, gather elements. You from the 6 planes of Captain Planet. All right, cool.
So yes, gather element. This is kind of how Rage works for a barbarian. This is you loading your class essentially. This is you locking and loading. So you choose an element that you're capable of channeling through your gate. Again, either 1 or 2 or 4. And then a mass of that element appears in your hand. So, I mean, this is more of a thing that you can describe however you wish, but you can just see it as like, oh, a fire appears in your hand, or there's water swirling around your hand, or something like that.
Yeah.
You don't get to go full avatar state just yet. There's a feat for that later.
There's a feat for that.
So again, if you use the impulse that has the overflow trait, you'll lose that, but otherwise you still have that element in your hand. It kind of determines what you're capable of using. In general, you can pretty much only hold 1 at a time, although there are feats that allow you to sort of channel more than 1 later on.
Okay.
You can also gather them in environments where that normally wouldn't be possible, so you can hold fire underwater if need be.
Or like rock out of nothing.
Pretty much, yeah.
I was like, where do you get the other stuff that doesn't exist? Like, yeah, you can put like when are you ever just standing in pure fire? Then you're like, oh yeah, check out this rock or water.
There is a ability later on that you can gather it from the environment. Although I'm not entirely sure how it's specifically useful because I didn't go over it too much, but we can talk about it when we get there.
Start a little forest fire and be like, I'm unstoppable. Alright, let's get to this elemental kung fu blast.
Yes, so elemental blast is the basic ability that every kineticist gets. And it just means that you can make a melee or ranged strike with the element that you have gathered. The exact traits and damage of that blast are going to be different for each element, and we'll go over that as we scroll down a bit more. But essentially, it's, again, this is another thing where it's not the thing, but it's like the thing. It's not an unarmed attack, but it's basically an unarmed attack.
Yeah, it's like you're not doing kung fu, but basically you're doing kung fu. So it's like the hand wraps are like, oh, you're doing kung fu. And you're like, no, this is different.
Close enough, though.
Oh my god, love it. I love all these hard written rules for I am an earthbender. I love it so much.
So yeah, we can get into the spells or not the spells, the blasts themselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, looking at this table here, and I'll throw that up on screen in the center to make sure people see it. You do have your elemental type, the damage it does, and then it'll have different traits. Yeah, you can see they are up there right now.
Wait, what is the water trait? Is it just that you can use it in water? You don't get
no, like the water trait is just like it does water
Oh,
damage,
sorry, I'm
essentially.
an idiot. I was like, they all say like water and fire and earth.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, sick. It's water and it's like tagged as water. Like, what does that mean? It gets you wet, like splash. Oh, cool. I like that water has sweep and earth has forceful, and like fire and air both share finesse and agile, but like inherently wind has reach and versatile. Oh, versatile bludgeoning. Ooh, that's cool.
Yes.
Yeah. Ooh, range trade. Oh, air is like pretty far. Way more than water.
Yeah, like
Ooh,
air goes the
compulsive.
furthest. It does do the least damage comparatively, but it's versatile.
That's
It
true.
has reach when you're doing melee, and they're all agile. So your attack roll is going to be better than like earth or water would be.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
So again, this is something
like
to
it.
look at when you're deciding like what kind of kineticist you want to be, or like me, you can just go for flavor and then take whatever you get. Like you do get forceful with the earth one, which sort of as it builds, like you get more dangerous as you build momentum essentially. So your second attack gets more damage, or like the second
Yeah, I
attack
think it's like-
gets damage equal to the number of damage dice. So
Yeah.
pretty much +1, but it does more damage.
Yeah, but I'm assuming it's, it levels up. You get like more dice. You get some hand wraps. You get more feats that make your slappity slap even more choppy choppy, right? So it's like, right? My poor dude with stick. Stick, man, no.
So here is one other thing that this is one thing that I think might have a typo in it somewhere, but we'll get into that. But this is adapt element, which is pretty much small things you can do with an amount of an element, a non-magical amount of an element that's within 10 feet of you. Pretty much like move object, it has to be like unattended or a small amount of it, like a negligible bulk, like light bulk. But you can do things with it, like you can gather your element from that thing instead of your inner gate. I'm not sure why you would do this, because this takes 2 actions and gather element usually takes 1. But I suppose you might be able to like gather a second kind of element.
Yeah, or like you pull it to your hand, right? Like think about like it as like if you need like the MacGuffin, and the MacGuffin happens to be like a crystal or like a gemstone or something. You could use Gather Earth to like, because it's technically made out of rock, to like grab the MacGuffin just sitting there and be like, this is mine now. Also, I'm gonna punch you with it. Like,
well, you might. So here's the thing with that. That would count as move, and move is the one that I feel like is not. Something feels a bit off about this.
oh, move a portion 1 foot in any direction. Yeah, you're right. That is kind of weird. Well, okay,
2 actions
right,
to move something,
maybe-
because it's not even like 5 or 10 or whatever. Like it's not that. It's like 1 foot. That feels a bit.
Yeah, there's not even increments for that if this is only supposed to be in thing. I think that should be 10 feet. That could be a typo. Because like, what does 1 foot even mean? Like,
Like I can't see that. Like I mean, I don't know if this whole thing would be useful in a combat situation at all, but like 1 foot feels like useless even outside of combat.
yeah, true.
Even if, especially if it's
Yeah.
if you have to be within 10 feet of it in the first place.
Yeah, that is weird. Why is it 2 actions? It must be 10 feet. And it's a drive
Yeah.
with you 10 feet. Yeah, it must be that.
I feel like it was meant to be 10 feet, and then I don't know if they just corrected it somehow or something, because it does say foot. Like it doesn't say 1 feet or something, so you think they maybe missed the 0.
Well,
So-
I mean, the grid is 5 feet, so it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird thing. Regulate, you can change the temperature. So this is one that applies specifically to certain elements, air, fire, and water. You can change the temperature of it, so you can create ice or snuff out a flame. And some things can be used as an improvised weapon if you heat them enough, but that's up to the GM. You can sculpt earth. You can sustain some air or water around a creature that breathes air or water. And that's just for adapt element, and that's like all your first level stuff, basically.
Oh, okay.
So what I'm wondering is, do you want to go over the class features, and then do you want to go over all of the elements, or the feats? Or sorry, do you want to go over all the feats? Or should we just start with the feats? Because that's kind of where the more interesting stuff is.
Yeah, let's just poke around in the feats. I think the feats are the cool part, right?
Yeah, we can talk about some of the class stuff as we go through. Some of the basic class stuff.
Yeah, like I saw elemental resistance, because obviously if you're channeling that shit through your body, like you should, get resistance to it. Yeah.
So that's like resistance to, while you have the element gathered, you get resistance to that elemental damage.
Yeah, okay. Ooh, and you can since it's like a planar thing, it looks like you're able to, with extract element, pull the juice out of them.
Yeah, so one of the class features, we could do some of the class features because I'm going to be scrolling past them anyway.
Yeah.
So one of the class features is extract element, which takes an element from a elemental creature. You can cause damage to an elemental creature of the type of element that you're able to channel by gathering your element from them. You can also take some other penalties with regards to taking damage from them.
Yeah. Cool.
Which is a very specific thing, because it's like, I don't know, like you specifically need to be fighting a fire elemental or whatever, but depending on the type of campaign you're playing, that might be something that comes up. Like, especially if you're doing a campaign where you're all benders, then...
That's true, and eventually it's like maybe you do fight, because the elemental tag, right, like whatever it is, it applies to a lot of things, because I think it also applies to Jinn and stuff too, so... because they're from that elemental plane as well, and not quasits. Quasits are the demon, but there's basically an imp version of an elemental as well. There's tons of and even the list of elementals. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of it, so it might actually be applicable quite often, especially if you took the universal one, where things can line up. But yeah, if you have a planescape thing going on, or it's a bender world, it's just wild, yeah.
Exactly. I feel like if you're playing this kind of character, you probably want to your GM might want to make that a more common thing to deal with, so you actually get to use your character traits, kind of like we talked about the tip last week or a couple weeks ago. So yeah, basic stuff, your boosts and things like that. At 5th level, you do get critical element, which is similar to the weapon critical specialization, how each weapon does a special thing on a crit. Each element does a special thing on a crit. So with air, you can force movement on a creature. With earth, you can, if it's on the ground, you can knock it prone. If it's in the air, you can bring it down about 20 feet, up to 20 feet.
Nice.
With fire, you can deal extra 1d6 persistent damage.
More fire.
Pretty much.
Nice.
You also gain a damage bonus equal to the item bonus to attack rolls. Mm-hmm. With water, it sort of sprays and causes splash damage, so damage around the creature.
Oh, cool.
Equal to the number of weapon damage dice.
It is splashing around because it's water.
Yes, exactly. So further on, at 7th level, you can adapt the terrain around you.
Oh.
On a portion of an element within 30 feet of you, so you can cause the element that you adapt to spread around. If it's in an unoccupied square, it'll go to fill that square, which can cause hazardous terrain as determined by the GM. Just that sort of thing. You can cause your element to spread around a bit.
Oh, okay, that's kind of cool. I mean, if you're, I guess, underwater, you could be and then there's rocks. You're oh, cool, dude.
Yeah, I feel like as a GM, I would allow someone to spread around air underwater if they need to.
Oh, that'd be kind of cool. Or just pockets of air, as bubbles, because you bring it into existence.
Yeah, you might have to continuously do it, but
yeah.
I just think the visual would be interesting enough that I would allow it.
I feel it's very hard to drown one of these guys. That's what I'm getting at.
Depends on what.
It's take that water trap.
Yeah, I'm just gonna move this water 1 foot away from my mouth. At 11th level, you can purify a sample of an element, removing pollutants from it.
What do
Although
you purify the fire? Like, what do you mean talking?
I was about to say, I don't know how you purify fire, but
That's true. I guess it's 3 out of 4. Like, I mean, well, maybe because there's like metal and wood too. So like I can when those happen, there's like more applicable things. But I was like, yo, the fire guys, like, I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't know how you make fire pure. And then you get elemental immunity. This is like at like 7th level. While you have an element gathered, you're immune to effects with that trait, which is pretty specific, but it is fairly high level. And then final get at 19th level, where you can basically channel or gather your element as a free action.
True.
So yeah, let's get into the feats. More so than the class features. I think those are kind of the more interesting thing, because that's where you get more customization.
Yeah.
So there's some general kineticist feats that every kineticist gets, and then there's some different elemental ones. We'll just go through these general ones real quick. Elemental familiar, pretty much what it says on the tin.
Little rock cat, little firebird, little water man, just a little guy.
Yeah, small creature
walking around,
made of the element that you channel.
It's a little old man just being like, everything's on fire.
So yeah, it does have the familiar trait. You can use it for assistance and things like that. It's a familiar.
Yeah, it's a familiar. He just shows up and it's like, I am your little man. Whatever you want me to do, boss.
Basically.
Ooh, elemental weapons. I'm pretty sure Rain already does this, but all right, like.
Yeah, you can shape your elemental matter into a weapon. So when you gather element, you can shape it into a simple weapon, including ranged weapons.
Ooh, a simple weapon. Okay, cool. I mean, I wish it was like there's like one where it's like, yes, expert elemental weapon. Now it can be a swords.
Oh, my mistake. Sorry, a simple or martial weapon. I think I was thinking just simple because you're only trained with simple weapons at level 1 anyways.
Sick. You could be like, take my kunai with chain. Actually, I think that's a exotic weapon probably, but yeah, take my fire sword or my rock sword.
But you would have to like use a feat to like weapon training or something to be able to have access to martial weapons, which might be worth
is like a maybe, I don't know, maybe if you're multi-classing into like low fighter, but like I don't know, anyone, like you could have like a two-handed weapon. Okay, that would be worth it.
Yes,
to change the
I
damage
believe.
dice.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah, because
oh no, sorry, you can't one-handed. Sorry. It must be a one-handed, simple, or martial weapon.
This is getting way less cool.
Yeah, this is one that I struggled with actually.
There's one where it's like, okay, like let's say like you like only have access to like bludgeoning, or like slashing or whatever it is, and it's like, oh yeah, but you're fighting like an ooze or something. Or like, oh man, I need some extra damage dice. I wish this fire axe was this fire was an axe to deal damage to Trents, because they have like the axe vulnerability. Like,
maybe. I mean, well, it does say the damage type changes. I took that to mean it would do like earth damage, but it probably does also include like bludgeoning or slashing or that sort of thing. It is like, this is again one that I struggled with because I was trying to figure out like what weapon is as effective as the elemental blast, or it gives me different options from what I'm already doing with the elemental blast. Like,
well, it sounds like you could change it into a ranged weapon as well. It might be useful, especially if you like use a element that has a smaller range. Like if you just turn this into like a longbow and all of a sudden you're back up to that 120 range, you're hitting like people like out in space. Like, yeah. So that might be something. I mean, I think I don't really understand the melee weapon portion of it, but unless there's like some specific gimmick you're trying to pull off, like I don't really see the point, because you're already like blasting people with like punches and stuff, right?
Yeah, that's fair. I guess you could consider a bow if you need a extra range. Like I was just trying to think of like if I had a weapon instead of my blast, what could I get from here or get out of this?
Yeah.
I was looking
style
at
points.
style points
what it is.
mostly. Like I was like, if it was, yeah, that was kind of where I was at. Like first off, I was like, oh, it'd be cool if I could make like an earth sword, but then it's like, is that as useful as just the regular earth melee attack?
I'm sure, like, in the nuances of, like, maybe, like, the crit range or, like, the type of stuff that because, like, critical specialties, like, I'm sure there's, like, feats and stuff you can take that, like, maybe you want, like, bleeding or something to be applied on a crit, or, like, you have, like, the shove feat or something like that, so you can, like, shove people on top of it. Like, there's tons of things, but I don't know. I can't see it right now. I'm sure there's a reason for it.
Yeah, there's definitely some big brain combo that you can do with this that I wasn't immediately seeing at low level.
Bruh, big brain combo. Flexible blast, you can make
so this
it all
one's
bendy.
This one is a bit more straightforward. This is just like you can use your dex for melee attacks, or you use your strength for ranged attacks, basically. When it comes to your elemental
moving
blast.
on. Get us out of here. Get this wishy-washy shit out of here.
Well, this is one that I kind of like debated using because the character I made had obviously higher strength than dex. So it's like, well, if I can use my strength for ranged attack rolls, then that would be preferable because I get like 2 instead of 1.
Damn, are you a punch man or are you not? Like, like I feel like it's weird to make it a feat. I feel like this should just be a class feature where it's just like built into elemental blast. It's like, listen, like you could just choose. Like, why do you need to use a feat slot for that? It's weird.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. But anyway, that's
it's just like that straightforward thing, though, compared to the other ones.
Kinetic activation. Ooh.
So this is essentially this is what allows you to use magic items like wands and scrolls and stuff. They just have to, whatever spell they are has to be it has to have your element.
The tag.
Yeah. It has to have the tag of your element.
Man, I mean, I guess so, but it still feels like kind of like a weird feat where it's like it's giving you a key that, you know, the designers lock themselves. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you should just be able to do it. I think. I don't see the point.
Well, for the most part, like with most of those things, it's like you have to have it on like your spell list, or it's just a thing that kind of saves you like a spell slot, or you have to be able to like recharge the item after you use it.
That's fair. I mean, I don't actually play with those rules anyway, so it's just like, yo, if you have the thing, you can bust this out like whenever, as long as you can cast a spell. That's like my minimum requirement is that you have to be vaguely magical, and if you can, even if you can tell me, like Pain, well, Pain's character right now is magical because everyone decided to learn magic while we're in the magic place, so I was like, okay, this is cool, that's fine. But before that, if you told me like JoJo did it, I would have been like, yeah, okay, sure. Like, like I wouldn't even care. I'm like, thank God they use this fireball scroll right now and not when it's important.
Oh no.
Blow up my stickmans and so like, you know, my big bad guy doesn't get a fireball to the face.
Well, if I'm playing a fire kineticist, then they might. But yeah, like, I guess rules is written, like, for scrolls, it has to appear in your spell list. So this is just, like, you don't have a spell list because you aren't casting spells. But if you have a scroll that has a fire tag...
I love it. It's just like you're kind of like a wizard, but not really. But also like a monk, but not really. Yeah. You're just like your own thing.
Your own very separate thing.
Oh, you can talk to the rocks. Oh,
yes.
Love it. Voice of the Elements.
So Voice of the Elements is a 2nd level feat. Yeah.
Yo, you can communicate with mindless elementals on the basic level. Like, what do you want, Rock? To be Rock. You're like, oh. Can you speak to the wind? Oh, I hear them. They said, ooh.
You can talk to a wind elemental. I don't know if you talk to just a regular wind.
I keep talking shit about this class. It's just really funny. I love it. Like I simultaneously love it and like think it's stupid at the same time.
That's the best kind of class. But yeah, you get a language depending on the element. You can speak to mindless elementals with voice of elements, and you can get a bonus to charisma-based skill checks against that element.
Blast barrage. You fire off a rapid piece of your element, hurling it at your foes.
Yeah.
3 elemental blasts. Bop. Nice. I love it.
So you still get your attack penalty, but you get 3 blasts in 2 actions.
Yeah, bop. That's pretty good. I mean, if you're gonna do it anyway, and you like gathered it, like level 4, you can like gather it and then blah like immediately. Sounds pretty good to me.
It's also not an overflow, so it's not going to use up all of your element if you do this.
Oh shit! Here's our first overflow command elemental. Ooh.
Yes. So if you're fighting an elemental creature, if it fails believe that's a will. Yeah, it's a will save. It can be controlled by you.
Ooh, okay. That's crazy. Sustain the impulse up to 1 minute. Okay, cool. Oh, so it's a sustain, so you're gonna have to use your action to keep the elemental up. That's so strange. It feels like, again, it's like if you're fighting an elemental. I'm sure that the funny thing is, I'm pretty sure like it's coming in a new book, right?
Yeah.
So like whenever the elemental rage, obviously is gonna have like a bajillion amounts of elementals. Like,
oh yeah, for sure. I'm sure there's gonna be new creatures coming in that make these more effective.
Yeah, because it's like, I'm like, when am I ever gonna just always be beaten up like a big rock man? It's like, oh yeah, well, not now, but like when the book comes out and it's like, oh yeah, by the way, here's some dudes who have the elemental tag all over the place. Like,
yeah, like here's 20 more rockmen. Then the GM might be like, oh, I want to use some more rockmen.
Are Trents considered elementals if they're trees? Because if it's like the wood element.
That might be if they have the wood trait. I mean, it just depends on if they have the
elemental
elemental
they probably
trait, so.
do. There are trees. So like if they don't have the wood trait, that should be errated. That should just be fixed.
Yeah. I feel like either of us would probably just be like, yeah, they're made of tree. So if you control wood, you control
the metal? Oh my god. Would golems and stuff count as elementals if they're made out of metal?
I don't think so. Like I can make sense of like a tree thing having the wood trait, but I don't think golem.
What about animated armor? Would that work? I like it. We're just like spitballing. Like, wait,
maybe.
If it's made out of metal, what is it? When does it count to be an elemental?
Yeah, what's the line between like elemental and just made of metal?
Yeah, right. Like he was already here. It didn't come from anywhere else.
I feel like if it was me personally, I would probably allow it, but make the DC to save a bit lower. But,
so like,
or just give him a bonus to the save.
So if it was like an animated broom that's mostly made out of wood, does that count as being a wood elemental?
Probably not rules as written. I wouldn't think, but me personally, I'd be like, yeah, you could convince me that would be worth a try. I'm just gonna make it a bit more difficult than it would normally be to do that thing.
So if like an enemy animates a sword, does that count as like a metal elemental, or is that just a sword that some dude is magic? I guess it depends if it was born or not. Like, did it have a birthday? Is today its birthday?
If today is its birthday, then no, it doesn't count.
It doesn't count because like obviously you always pass all things on your birthday, right? That's exactly the rule. It's just 20s all day.
Like if like a tree, like an ent or whatever, because it's like living as that thing, sure, maybe I would allow it. But if you just brought this sword to life, then it's probably not from like the elemental plane of metal.
True. Well, like obviously like Zorns and shit are elementals, and like there's like this really pissed off cloud in Bestiary 1 that was like a sand monster too. Oh, there's like lots of elementals everywhere. I'm sure there's gonna be like a shit ton more. Wait, no, dragons don't get elements. I was like, but does a red dragon have the fire tag? I don't remember.
It might. Ooh, you know what? I think it might have to have the elemental tag, probably.
Oh, that would make sense.
Yeah, it would have to have the elemental trait. I think that just cut off all the things we were talking about because it would have to have the elemental trait.
That's not fun. All right, well.
Back to dunking.
This command elemental until that book comes out and I'm like, oh yes, give me all of the monsters.
So
they all combine. I can't wait. I hope there's like a Captain Planet monster that's just like, I have all 5 or 6 elements.
I am certainly adding different prime elemental locations in my game world just specifically because of this class. We'll see what happens in the
Dude.
book.
Cycling Blast sounds pretty dope. You get to just switch up your element on the fly. You're like bam, bam.
Yes.
That's
So
really
you can
good, actually.
make a blast and switch up your element in either order for one action.
That's a cool like 6th level feat actually.
Yeah, I think by that point you'll have an idea of what things you want to use or have more impulse feats to use it with. It is locked to dual gate or universal gate, obviously, because you need access to more than one element.
Stoke the element. Oh, you just gain like a status bonus on damage.
Yeah. So at 6th level Stoke element, if you have dedicated gate and you're focused on that one specific item, you can get a bonus to damage with impulse feats or a +4 if that's an overflow one that uses up all of your element.
That's pretty cool. That's like a do whatever you're doing, do it harder like ability. Yeah, and I'm assuming that like the overflow stuff are probably like 2 actions or 3 actions to justify like you're basically doubling it, right? Because it's like next damage roll gains +2. Yeah,
pretty much. But like imagine say doing Stoke element and then doing the elemental barrage.
It's true. Yeah, and then all of a sudden your next attack, but it's your next roll that has damage roll. Oh, okay. But it's the first time you use one. So like I don't know if the elemental barrage, because it has the multiple attack penalty, counts as like it's because you still like I don't know if they're all count as one action, like one attack, or they're 3 separate attacks. That's
yeah, I know. It probably only counts to the first one actually. Yeah, it's more useful for overflows.
One. Yeah. Well, yeah. It's just Stoke the element, overflow. Yeah. Oh, it gets better, I guess.
Yes, yeah. As you level up, it gets better. It's probably more useful for overflows than the barrage, because I think it would only apply to the first barrage.
Well, this will keep up like the damage output, right? And I'm sure like overflows are like fucking like, oh yeah, take my big rock throw where it's like you throw a giant rock at like 5 dudes, and you're like, yeah. Although I don't know how you stoke a rock, because you're just like, yeah.
Just roll it around in your hand until it's all smooth.
Yeah, it's like, get some, like, hype it up. And the rock's just like, yes, I am rock. She'll be more rock than I've ever rocked before. Oh, okay. Aura shaping, cool. You get to just be like, this is more fire underwater. Sick.
So you can widen your aura as need be.
If anyone's mad at my comments, like,
that's fine.
I'm not meaning anything by it. It's all good fun. I mean, this is a sick class. Like, no matter what, if someone's like, "Yo, I'm playing in a Kineticist," I'm like, "Yo, for real, let's go." Like,
as long as it's not an investigator.
Yeah. GG.
This does though. Aura shaping does though use your Constitution modifier. Because as you widen your aura, you can designate a number of creatures who are immune to the benefits or immune to damage and drawback, and that's based on your Constitution modifier, which rarely gets use, but it is getting use here.
It's true. I wish it was more like you can apply your Constitution modifier to like knowledge checks. Like you just like buff up, and then you're like, oh yeah, I remember. Like that would be
brain
really
is
funny.
The strongest muscle.
Yeah, or it's like when you communicate, when you try and intimidate an elemental, you could just like flex and you're like, oh my god, you're so good, like damn, look at that booty, like. Ooh, chain blast, just chilling with the good old like catch one friend, catch the other, like bam bam.
Yeah, up to a number of 5, you can chain blast between creatures that are within the first range increment of each other.
Dang, it is multiple attack penalty though, which I mean, but the penalty doesn't increase until after you've made all the strikes.
Yes, so you could make your 5 strikes so that they would each have whatever multi-attack penalty you would have at that point in time.
Oh, like at the initial when you're doing it, so it's like.
Yeah, because the penalty doesn't increase until after you've made all the strikes within Chain Blast.
Oh, okay. So, it's level 10. Okay, that makes sense. I was like, damn, that's kind of strong. And then I was like, oh yeah, people are murdering you at level 10. Like, you're finding like real things, like big giants that have like, like a couple D12s worth of like one action attack or something. Like,
yeah, you're facing
like,
real
God,
problems.
My face. Yeah, real problems. real spellcasters out here shooting like, I don't know, like just, I don't know, I probably do like 5th level harm and just do like 100 damage. just like, probably won't be 100.
Yeah,
maybe like
harm
50,
is pretty
like
mean. So
a good chunk of your face just gone, like.
So yeah, let's just change
Deconstruct.
that. Deconstruct element. Yep.
Ooh, yeah, okay. Single element attempts to gain control over it. You and your element serves another. Oh, you get to just. There's probably like a kineticist like bad guy out there who's also gathering elements and shit.
Yeah, so this is like if you get attacked, or if you're dealing with one type of element, you can counteract an effect that has the elemental trait that you have control over.
So like if an elemental had like a rock move that like threw a rock at you, does that count as an elemental attack?
If it has the
even
earth tag.
Okay.
Then
okay. So like
I mean, there's going to be cases that feel like it would make sense for someone with control over this element to be able to do this thing, but rules is written doesn't say. So like again, that feels a third thing where I think either of us would be like, yeah, I'll allow it.
Yeah, because it feels like if you're fighting, it's like when like earthbenders fight, right? You chuck a rock at one earthbender's gonna catch it and chuck it back, or like split it in half, or just do whatever, right? Like, I think it's like that's what they're trying to go after. Like, you know, like it's like if you're fighting your same element or whatever, then it's like you can do it more effectively and even not even just like ignore it, but like actively take control of whatever the fuck's happening.
Yeah, it does. It is specifically if you personally are targeted by it, not for like area effects. But like, I'll be honest, like if something threw a rock at someone and they have earth dedication, and they wanted to like counteract this rock throw by channeling the element, I mean, that sounds really cool. Rules as written probably wouldn't work, but if they make it sound cool enough, then I would probably be like, sure, I'll let you use this thing just with like a check or something to make it a bit harder, because you're doing something very specific that isn't how your ability normally works, but it sounds cool. Yeah. So I'll let you take this carrot. I'm just gonna dangle it on this stick, and you gotta roll high enough to take this.
It's once every 10 minutes, and it's a reaction. So like even on the round, like you only get to use it once. So if there's 2 boulders flying at you, what are you gonna do? Like,
yeah, it is once per 10 minutes. So maybe I'll be like, sure, stop that rock.
Yeah, whatever. I'll just have this other guy, his friend Jim, just chuck another rock at you.
No, it's probably more for like spells and like effects and things like that have that trait. I just like the idea of stopping a rock.
I mean, I like the idea of someone casting like a fire spell and you're just like catching that thing. You're like, no, you. It's just like, blam.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it is supposed to work. But you know, big rocks.
Yeah, true. All right, where I came for fusion blast. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is some of the ones at 10 are like for specific gates. So fusion blast is for dual gates, and you have your one element in one hand, one element in the other. You make an elemental blast and add the damage dice from the second element to the damage.
Oh, okay. So it's like one attack, but you're basically like fusing the two. It's like power attack, but for
kinda
blast and spells. All right, cool.
It does count as 2 attacks for your multi-attack penalty, but yeah, you get to add in your damage. It uses the die and damage type that the secondary blast would normally deal, and its normal number of damage dice.
That's pretty cool. Okay, cool. Well, I'll take it. I mean, that's like a fancy like, oh yes, take my fire rock slash.
Yeah, I mean, again, like it sounds really cool. It doesn't like add your strength again or anything. It's just the dice, but you know, it again sounds cool.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so then, can you turn that attack into a sword? Anyway, I don't know why you would, but yeah, maybe.
I mean, because it's an elemental blast, it could still be melee.
True. Yeah, it could be. All right, cool. All right, I like the flexibility. It's feeling pretty good. Gather amalgamation.
So for universal gates, you can channel a little bit of all 4 elements.
Oh shit! Look at this. Finally my avatar state.
No, it's gather amalgamation. It's totally different.
Yeah, totally different. Bend all 4 elements, you mean, dog? All right, cool.
So
this is like pretty self-explanatory.
basically what it is that once you channeled all 4 elements, you can use impulse feats from any of those 4 elements. However, using one then means that you use up all of that element.
Yeah, so you can't like you shoot the rock portion off, then you can't use the rock until you gather more rock.
Yes, basically.
Yeah.
True.
All right.
And yeah, they can swirl around you like you're in Avatar state. A 12th level general feat for Kineticists, or the Rapid Reattunement, which requires elemental flexibility. So you just basically swap out one feat you have and replace it with another eligible feat.
True. Oh, flowing kinetics. Rock does not get to apply.
No, but I'm sure it gets something else after. Yeah, I guess something else.
Yeah. You can like, I guess move, like you use the elements to like do all the stuff, like burrow and climb and fly and shit.
It's weird that burrow is here and not on Earth, but let's scroll down and see.
Yeah, that is kind of weird. Feels like maybe that might have been a mistake. But we'll see.
Well, you get a bonus to AC and Fortitude.
Oh, for Earth?
Yeah.
True. Never mind. Definitely worth it. You're just like, rock man.
I don't know. I kind of wish you could get a burrow speed when you channeled Earth. But, I mean, I guess like that's fine.
Listen, we're about lifting the Earth up and throwing it at people.
Fair enough. So yeah, at 14, you can either get some different kinds of movement with air, fire, or water, or you can be a bit more steadfast with Earth. At 16, you can get a feat that is... it's basically sustained for a free action.
Ooh. That's not as cool. And the aura one is probably blah blah blah. Child elements. You change your kinetic aura by using a different kinetic aura impulse. Okay, yeah, that one's also like a quality of life upgrade.
Yeah, pretty much like a quick switch of something that would normally take you.
Oh, Maelstrom blast. Each enemy in the blast melee reach or range attack. Cone length, blah blah blah. Okay, cool. You just like make a cone attack? Yeah,
pretty much. You blast off your element. You make multiple attacks, but the attack penalty doesn't increase until you finish making all your strikes.
Oh, okay.
But you can make melee blast or range blast against each enemy within a cone. Or within a blast.
You can choose like how you want to do it, how you want to slap them up.
Yeah, basically.
Slap chop them.
Yeah, do you want to do it in a blast or in a cone?
Yeah. Do you want to shoot him? Do you want to hit him? Okay, Nourishing Gate. You just eat it. You just eat the rock. Okay, cool.
Yeah, you can.
Is that what it says? Because like, I didn't read it.
You get a bonus to poison, sleep, and effects that make you paralyzed if you're able to have a small amount of your element nearby, like a small drop of water or a small spark of fire.
What, really? Okay. At 18th level? Damn, man, that's crazy. I'm sure it's also to do with like... Oh, it has to be from the plane. Yeah, well, okay. I mean, a +2 at level 18? Like, really?
Yeah, that doesn't feel like a whole lot, but you also don't need to breathe, eat, or sleep, so...
Oh yeah, true. Never mind. That's like the important part. we're like +2, and it's like, by the way, you're just a robot now. Like, don't worry.
And yeah, 20th level feats. You have perfected your control over an element, so any impulses that normally take 3 actions will only take 2.
Okay.
Although overflows function the same. Or you can get Omnikinesis, which requires improved flexibility, which is that you can realign your innegate much easier. So again, you can choose a feat that you have from your elemental flexibility and switch it with another one.
Just more quality of life stuff. Oh man, that was crazy. That was like so much stuff. It
was a lot of stuff. Do you want to continue into the feats for each element, or should we save those for another time? Because we're about halfway through this guide.
Yeah. I think we should split it up. Maybe we'll just start back, like the maybe next week's podcast with going over all the cool elemental nonsense that you get to do, like.
Yeah, I mean, these feats all have, like, the high-level ones all have some very anime names, like Infinite Expanse of Bluest Heaven.
Okay, well, now we have to go through it, but I would like to go through this. Oh, man, Crowned in Tempest Fury. Stop, get me out of here.
There was a really good fire one. Let me see if I can find it. The Shattered Mountain Weeps is one of the Earth ones.
The Shattered Mountain Weeps. Okay, all right, I'm sold. Whatever I said before, like, who cares? Like, like all shall end in flames. No, ignite the sun. Damn.
Yeah, so the feat names get pretty metal as you level up.
Stop. Ride the tsunami. You surf the lunar rains.
I'm a big fan of this drowning sphere.
Yeah, I know. And then just simple drowning sphere. Good old drowning sphere.
But yeah, so I think we'll save the different elemental feats for another time, perhaps. I do want to like have a try of actually using a Kineticist in combat. I do have one that I was working on. I think maybe I'll talk about them a bit more afterwards and talk about why I made some certain decisions with them. Because a lot of it was me trying to hit a certain flavor of character. And I might not have. Well, I mean, like with any RPG, you try to hit a certain flavor, and then you might not make like a very effective character, but you make a character that's kind of like what you want.
Oh my god! Ignite the sun. I can't handle it. Like, we should go through these on another episode, and then we should look at your characters too.
Yeah,
I think I'm excited to. I want to like deep dive into these attacks and stuff.
There's definitely some interesting stuff here, like restoring mud. But we'll get to that. I think we'll do that next time, just because we don't want to have like a 2-hour episode.
Yeah. This is cool though. I've been, I don't know, like this is very exciting for me. Like, like all the other class abilities, like this is a little underwhelming, but these are like juice, man. Like,
yeah, this is where the real spice is. That's why I was like,
yeah.
Should we just skip everything and just go straight here? But I think like laying the base groundwork. We did kind of skim through it a bit, so there might be some things that we kind of glossed over that if you guys want to talk about a bit more, be sure to drop a comment about it. Or if you have tried playing one of these, tried playing Kineticist already, you can drop a comment about that too. I'm going to try to set one up in Foundry. It just got really mad at me when I tried to make it 5th level for some reason. I haven't been able to figure out why, so I might just have to like get a piece of paper and then do that. But yeah, I definitely want to give one of these a try in an actual combat situation, both with elemental creatures of their type and without elemental creatures of their type, because I feel like that's going to be a pretty big distinction as well.
Yeah, no, these are really cool, and like I love the names. The names are killer. I like that, just like crazy attack names. You know, I feel like lately Pathfinder has been drawing a lot from like these like bombastic shonen anime names for attacks and actions and stuff like that lately.
Oh yeah, like ever since oh god, what book was Horizon Thundersphere and Secrets of Magic? Ever since Secrets of Magic, I felt like the names have been, and it might have been before, and I might have just not noticed. But yeah, when I saw Horizon Thundersphere, it felt so different than any other spell name that I had seen before that I was like, what light switch just turned on over at Paizo?
It's true. I don't know who designer did that, who made that one, but yeah, it's a good one. That's a good name. These are so good, and I'm so excited to probably get all my dudes with 6 blown up with it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to play in a game. I may have to talk to Tim about these abilities, because I definitely want to. They're so good. But yeah, we'll call it here, folks. Thanks for listening. If you made it all the way to the end, Calvin, do the outro things.
Yeah. Again, if there's something specific that we didn't go over, that we might have missed, or that we might have interpreted incorrectly, I don't know if a broom counts as a wood elemental, but I mean, I'd let you try if you wanted to. If you can convince me. So if you want to try to convince me otherwise, be sure to drop a comment below. or anything else about you want to see us talk about with this class, or if you want to see us do like things like this with regards to other classes or other games. I think it was interesting just to go through these things and talk about how we might feel about them even before we get to use them. So if you want to see more of that, just hit that subscribe button and let us know how you feel. And be sure to hit that notification bell as well so you get notified when we upload new podcast episodes or when we go live with gaming streams. I'm trying to keep the normal schedule. Did have to skip Skyrim this week, but we've got Batman, we've got Skyrim, and we've got Outer Worlds, which has been super fun. Otherwise, I do want to make sure we shout out all the people in the comment or the description section below. All that great Lancer stuff, you want to add that to your campaigns, as well as the new Lancer series that started over on the Station Kua channel. I'll be sure to link that below as well, so definitely go check that out. I'll link again to the trailer and to the first episode below. Additionally, I want to make sure to shout out the Untold Stories project, where I'm at every week in their Starhaven superhero game. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on in that game. My character has some major decisions to make, and I feel like things are going to come to a head of it, just because the whole city is turned against us. And also, they've got a really interesting new series coming up in the next couple of weeks. We'll be doing a preview of it, so be sure to check that out. I believe from when this episode goes up, it will be the next week, but I'm bad at remembering time, so just go visit the channel every day, and eventually you'll see it.
Eventually, awesome.
But that is everything for this week. Ramon, anything else you want to leave our audience with before we head off?
No.
All right, well, for all our elemental GMs and players out there, just remember to keep on winning with dice, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.